Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Dialogue. I am your host, Patricia, and I am so excited for the content that is going to be released this evening on this specific episode. One thing about me, I am always excited to talk about the things of God, no matter if it's about faith, adversity, trials, tribulations, suffering, circumstances, unfortunate events, and things of that nature, because I am a firm believer that as you maneuver through life, God is able and capable to turn your situation around for a beautiful testimony that's going to give him glory. So I'm excited no matter what the context is. But today we have a very interesting and juicy topic. So as you know on the show, our mantra is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. So it is my hope that as I give this insight to you that is breathed into my spirit from God, you will take it and process it. And just maybe as you're going along on your everyday life, you meet and encounter someone that you're able to share this information with. You guys articulate about it, talk about it, and you get your own understanding of how it can be applicable to your life and or the person that you are actually talking to. So don't forget to share. You can actually follow, leave a comment, or you can email me if you're interested in sharing your testimonies. I would love to hear from you. So I am really excited today. And it's because for the past, I want to say 9 months, I have noticed a trajectory in my life as well as the people that have been around me. Meaning, and I will say this, if you are going through a hard and rough time in your life, adversity or situations, don't despise it. Because God can use you as a person that speaks encouragement to other people. He can use you to inspire them, have them turn their lives over to the Lord with salvation, and finally decide that they want to have an intimate personal relationship from Him simply by how you handle difficult circumstances and situations. However, this is not actually the context for this situation that I'm going to be talking about, or this specific episode I'm going to be talking about today. So the title for today's episode is The Power of a Safe Space. The power of a safe space. And so we all know that when we go through something in life, it is very trying. It is very difficult. It is sometimes even unfair. But as I said, God knows how to level the playing and bring justice to situations. And so I want to talk about a safe space. On my Instagram platform and TikTok platform, I am always talking about the importance of specific environments, people that are safe, mentalities that are safe, and things that are not, which would be the opposite in comparison, are considered to be toxic and unhealthy environments. I put it in 3 different categories: people, places, and things. Okay. And so let's just start off with a basic foundation. A safe space allows people to benefit by feeling supported, respected, and able to express their true selves without fear of judgment, which can lead to improved mental health, a sense of belonging, and the ability to openly discuss sensitive topics, particularly for marginalized groups who might face challenges in other environments. Essentially, it provides a refuge where individuals can be authentic and receive validation for who they are. Some of the key benefits of a safe space include emotional well-being, authentic self-expression, sense of belonging, personal growth, community building, and empowerment. That definition was packed with so much context. And so that's what this episode is about. We're going to break down the context that I just read about in hopes that you are in a safe space, that you will be able to differentiate if you're in a safe space or not, and also give you the motivation to pray to God and ask Him to maneuver you to a safe place if you are not already in that place, okay? And or environment, and or relationship, or even if you're not involved in a thing that is safe. Right? Because we know a lot of times things are not safe. But more particularly, I want to talk about relationships, which also create environments. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, if it's toxic and it's not healthy, the environment that you find yourself in with that person can also be the same. And let's just also say city, states, neighborhoods, community, and things like that, right? So I liken this to a flower. And I liken it to a flower because we're all going to go through seasons and times where there's going to be a mandate on our life to grow. God is going to challenge us to evolve past the present state that we are in, which means He is requiring us to bear fruit. He is requiring us to transform, and He is requiring us to live at the standard that He has for our life. However, if you find yourself in an unhealthy place or toxic place, a lot of times your growth can be stagnated. Your mind can become contaminated. And a lot of these things are going to stunt your growth. Look at a flower, for instance. Flowers have specific instructions. Like, I remember in the summertime, I went through a season where I was in my planting phase. Like, I had got flowers, I was planting them, making sure I was nourishing them. And all of a sudden one day we had a heat wave where it went to like 90 degrees outside, if not hotter. And unfortunately, the flowers died. It was too hot for them. They were so beautiful. They were like a magenta color, absolutely beautiful. And unfortunately, they died. And so after a while, I got further instructions from some people like, oh, they received too much heat. Take them out, put them in the shade, make sure you don't overhydrate them, and things of that nature. And it was actually beneficial because once I followed the instructions to move them out of that sun-scorched environment and allow them to have some shade, which was some covering so that all of their nutrients, which was the water, was not depleted out of them, they started to actually bud again, which means that the environment became healthy for them once again to where they can recharge themselves, right? And regrow. And a lot of people that I talk to in the profession that I'm in, which I am a qualified mental health specialist, I'm a chemical dependency counselor. My specialty is in helping people pursue purpose, identity through healing, spiritual healing. And a lot of times I can see the stagnation because they're not in the right environment. The people that they are around, the mentalities that they have, it does not benefit who that person is becoming. So you could see extra warfare. You may see this person drained all the time, irritated all the time, frustrated all the time, because they know they're in an environment that does not fit who they are trying to become. And so the same things with the flowers. Now, amazingly, I did not have to take them out of the pot and repot them. Some of the instructions that I got were just simple. But if I needed to take them out of the pot to repot them, because, pots can get bacteria in them and other types of nems, which are like, it eats away at the flower, like you can see it on top of the flower. These will affect the capacity at which it grows and if it dies. But luckily, I did talk to other women that had been way more experienced than I myself as a beginner. One lady called me a gardener, and I thought that was so amazing because that was not something that I saw myself doing years ago. But I was so determined to make my yard look absolutely beautiful. So I was cutting grass, I was potting flowers, I was actually even putting flowers in the foundation of my yard and watering the grass. I mean, it was an experience, but it was so calming. And so when those flowers died, it was actually like my attitude was, I was really sad, because sometimes you can think that you're doing something right. And God is like, okay, this needs to shift and that needs to change, and you'll see more growth, right? And that's with a lot of us. We can find ourselves in a situation or a circumstance that is not healthy for us, not healthy for our mental health, not healthy for us overall, and it will impact us. But God is so faithful. He will give you instructions. He will give you strategy. He will even allow you to talk to some people that maybe have gone through what you're experiencing so that you can navigate to a better place. Because God wants us to thrive. We know that in his word, he says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but God comes that we may have life and life more abundantly. We take this context from John 10:10. And so if you are not in a safe space, oftentimes There is so much that is being stolen and taken from you. For instance, peace. You might have to fight so hard to get a concept or an idea to help you financially. You may have to fight so hard to go back to school or get a better paying job. I know I'm an avid believer in the inability of certain environments to provide good financial stability. Like if you go live in the country where things are not as expensive, you know, $7, $8, $9, $10 an hour may be fairly normal. Whereas you go to other cities and states, Columbus, New York, and things like that, minimum wage may be at $19 or $20 because the cost of living is more expensive. And so when you think about that, it is all about your mentality, being in a place to thrive. And that's what this said. It said being in a safe space ultimately sets you up to thrive. What I talked about previously was being in a mode of survival. So I'm going to read this to you. In regards to survival, it says it's a state of chronic stress that can be caused by trauma or other prolonged stressful events. And staying in survival mode for too long can have a negative effect on your physical and mental health, right? So it can have issues in your physical, your emotional, your cognitive, and behavioral symptoms, right? And so that is survival mode. I myself am strictly opposed to this survival mode because it's like you don't have ease in your day. You don't have peace. Things seem frantic and chaotic and just all out of sorts. That is not a safe space. It's not a safe space to be in inwardly or outwardly. And now if we transfer over to the definition of thriving, being in the mode of thriving, it says a state of being where you are in control of your life and are able to grow, learn, and make choices that reflect your values. People in thriving modes are confident, resilient, and feel connected to a community of support. They are able to handle challenges and are passionate about learning new things and taking on engaging projects. And I'm going to slightly say the word in control because we know that God is in control of our lives. We don't actually control our lives. If you are literally a son or daughter of God, it says those that are led by the Spirit of God are the sons of God. So therefore, that in control part, we're never in control of our lives, right? So it says growing, taking care of yourself, feeling connected, and also having fun. Now, it gives us some key points because this is also talking about a safe space, right? It gives us some points. It says to shift from survival mode to thriving, you can try staying connected. It says designing a schedule and finding ways to thrive. It also says to be honest with yourself. So when it comes to people living out certain lifestyles, it says, they that worship me, meaning God, not me, they that worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. This is the first key component to understanding if you're not in a safe space. You have to go to God and ask God, like, hey, I'm feeling a certain type of way. I don't understand where this is coming from, but I know that this is not normal. I know that something is wrong. Can you show me what that is? And when he tells you it's your environment, because that's what we're talking about today, or the people that you're around, you have a responsibility to respond. The response should be after you pray, Lord, okay, boom, you've told me this. I understand I'm not in the best place. What do I do now to navigate and or maneuver to the place where I'm going to grow, thrive, connect, feel supported, and have fun? Because I don't know if any of you have ever been in a place where you didn't feel safe. It is so stressful. And I've had these instances occur numerous times in my life where I found myself in situations that were out of my control, unhealthy environments, and around people, and it was stressful. It was extremely stressful to the point where it was like I couldn't even think straight. I couldn't even process, almost to the point where it was like hope was gone. Like I couldn't even see myself coming out of some of those places. So what I would do was, when I was in those unsafe places, I would take walks. I would go to the park. I would do anything to free my mind, to hear what God was telling me to do, to hear how he was telling me to navigate. Sometimes it would simply be just wait on me. Other times it would be make a phone call. Other times it would be apply for this house. Other times it would be move to this specific city. You know, whatever God wanted me to do, I would do it because I could see myself changing. As I was not in the best environments, I could see that it would affect me so bad that I wasn't my normal self, let alone was I becoming who God wanted me to become. And that was my post today on Instagram. Everything has just really been in sync with what he wanted me to talk about today. But my post today on Instagram, it was very interesting because it said, everyone needs a safe space to birth the new version of who they are becoming. So that's the interesting part, because a lot of times when you're in something, you don't immediately know. And if you do, you're very wise. I just celebrate you right now. But oftentimes you don't immediately know, like, okay, this is not where I'm supposed to be. Sometimes God will cause you to be in that place, make you so uncomfortable in that place to where you'll say, okay, this is not me. This is not who I am. And then he'll challenge you. Okay, like, I know you're different. And I needed you to sit here long enough to see that you're different and that you deserve more and you should be doing more. And that the people that you're around don't want to change their lives. They don't even want anything from their lives. And I didn't want you to, I let you stay here to see this. So now you're uncomfortable in what you used to be comfortable in. And that's when you could tell when God is shifting you, when you're birthing a new version of yourself. Maybe you were around people and you were comfortable with just sitting around all day. No major plans for your life, right? And then God pricks you like, okay, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. And you're looking around like there's no possible way. And that's the beautiful part about God, because even if there is a place where you find like where God is telling you to become is not possible, this is when he'll shift you. It first starts in the mind. You have to realize where you are, that it's not healthy, that it's toxic, that it's not conducive to who God is developing you and helping you become. Okay? And so all of this came about because today I was reading and it was talking about, I was actually, I believe, in Exodus 1. And it was talking about how the Israelites were oppressed. There was a new man that came onto the scenes, but they didn't know of Joseph. And they were becoming fruitful. They were multiplying great, increasing in number and becoming numerous, that the land was filled with the Israelites, which was believers, right? So a new king came to power. He knew nothing about Joseph. And so he sent out this mandate. Actually, it says they worked ruthlessly to make their lives very hard, like the Israelites. It was very bitter for them, which is so interesting because anytime you are in environments or around people that make your lives bitter, and it also said with harsh labor and brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields and all their harsh labor, the Israelites worked them ruthlessly. That's another way of, you know, that you're not in a conducive environment because you're worked, you're taxed. There is no rest, right? We know that God is a God of rest. He even rested on the 7th day. So if you're in an environment around people that require you to do things that it's just harsh on you or harsh on your spirit, you're not in a safe space. You're in the wrong environment. And so what he did was the Hebrew women were bringing forth birth. They were multiplying. And he said, I want you to kill all the boys, but if it's a girl, let her live. That was so interesting to me. And I want to dive deeper into that eventually about why he wanted the boys to be, you know, slaughtered, but the little girls to live, right? However, the midwives, which were actually Egyptian midwives, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt told them to do. They let the boys live. And he was so upset Like Pharaoh was so upset. Like, why did you do this? Why did you disobey me? And they noted, like, okay, the women are so strong. They give birth before the midwives arrive. So I say this to say, the safe space is sometimes God will have you birth out things faster than what he originally told you because it's an act of safety. And it says, so God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. Now listen to this. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. He gave them families of their own, which also means that he created a safe place, a safety net for them, because I think it needs to be understood that once they disobeyed Pharaoh, they weren't in his favor, right? So God had to give them something that would suffice for the family that they no longer were probably going to have in Pharaoh and his entity, his army, and things of that nature. Like, they disobeyed him. And another version says, and it came to pass because the midwives feared God that he made them houses. So this is so interesting because I look at it twofold. They helped preserve the house of God. They were in strict defiance to doing something that they were told to do. They were in defiance against Pharaoh, who was the king of the land. And so beautifully, because of their obedience to God, disobedience to men, God blessed them with what Pharaoh was trying to destroy. They were told to destroy Hebrew boys, which have the capacity to make families, right? Because if we think about a woman gets impregnated by a man. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So there's my answer right there. Why would he want to kill all the boys? Because boys that become men have the capacity to impregnate and help a woman to conceive, which means that they will be more multiplication, which means they were being in obedience to God, which would create more families and people that were Israelites. So the Egyptian women, midwives, got blessed with what Pharaoh was trying to destroy. Not only did he not destroy it, more families in safe places were coming into existence and being. Why do I say all this? I personally believe that environments and places and people are toxic because they have to be in order, in alignment with the Lord. Because we understand that people, and oftentimes what is in them, whether darkness, if it is darkness, they can create toxicity, which will make it an unsafe place. Because have you ever been around somebody that's not safe? You don't know what they're going to do or what they're going to say, if they're going to hurt you or not. It's very stressful. And so when we look at all the pointers, the safe space can be in the environment where there's your family. Now, do not misunderstand me, because I am an advocate and believer that just like Abraham, God told him to get away from his kindred, which was his family. He would make him a father of many nations, because the people that he were around obviously were not serving the God that told him to leave. And in his obedience, he received a wife, Sarah, or Sarai, who became Sarah. He received his promised son, and that was his family. That was a safe place. Obviously, where he was not a safe place. It could have caused him to denounce his relationship with God, compromise, get into idol worship, and do things that will ultimately cause him to destroy his destiny and identity. It was not a safe place for where he was becoming. Well, for who he was becoming. Now, please don't limit your understanding, because when we talk about the power of a safe place, we can talk about any area that God puts you in order for you to become. Your toxic place can be a job. It can be a friendship. It could be lingering too long on social media, because that place, which is just an internet place, has now inhabited inside your mind, and now your thoughts and everything about you is being framed by social media. Not a safe place. A safe place can be a family. It can be a relationship. It can be anything that God decides to cover you so that you're not destroyed by the enemy before you become who you're meant to become. And trust and believe he'll do it. He'll send people that are not healthy. He'll put you in jobs that make you compromise your morals and your standards. And by the time it's all said and done, you've been there so long that you're not even serving God anymore because you've taken on their way of how they do business, which is unholy and toxic. And it exploits people and uses them for financial gain. So when we talk about the power of a safe place, we are talking about anywhere that God places you to where you can become, you can connect, you can be supported, you can feel loved, validated, seen, heard, acknowledged, sufficient, adequate. These are safe spaces and places, which I probably will name this the power of a safe space. Because when you're in a relationship, and we're all ever growing and changing, well, this should be what we are doing, which is to evolve. The beautiful part is that when you meet someone that's safe, you can be yourself. You don't feel like you have to walk around on eggshells. You don't feel like if you say the wrong thing, they're going to flip out, go off on you, or do some type of punishment to make you feel like you're wrong. Like they're not revengeful, they're not spiteful, they're not hateful. Safe places are environments and places and people that are forgiving and merciful and gracious and kind. It takes me back to a person that's a little kid and they never felt safe in their environment. So because they never felt safe, they never developed in their capacity to connect with people, truly connect with people. It's stressful not to be in a safe space. And so what we want to do is on this podcast, in this episode, give you understanding, because you know that there are so many people that don't know the difference between a safe space and not. And so many people are compromising themselves, their destiny, and their relationship with God because they don't know that the place that they're in and the space that they're in is so dark and that they'll never reach their full potential in that space. But a lot of people don't understand and they'll stay. Because it says we're killed for our lack of knowledge. So now that you know this, you can take these principles and use them to evaluate your life. Am I in a safe space? Is this somewhere that I can grow? Is this a relationship where I feel valued, seen, and heard? Am I going to evolve into the person God wants me to become? Because we're always changing and God is challenging us. And this is why he tells us to let some things and people go, because he knows this was never safe and you're never going to evolve. The heartbreaking thing is when we ourselves look up and find out later, like, wow, this really wasn't the best place. This really wasn't the best relationship. They are really not the best people for me to be around. It can be very shocking. I've been through that a couple times where I have trusted myself in the care and hands of people only to be dropped. And it was like, wow, this really wasn't safe, because if it was, I never got dropped this hard. And so now that I understand that, I guard my heart differently. I operate differently with people. Still love people, but have enough wisdom to understand I should always be in a place where I feel comfortable to be the God version of me, and not the broken version that the enemy would want. No one should be comfortable with you being broken or trying to break you. Remember, the text said the Israelites were oppressed, right? And so if you are a person, ask God to put people in your life and in your path that are safe. It may just literally be one person, but God is faithful. And he is faithful to continue the work that he starts and begins in our lives. And so he'll give us opportunities to bust through barriers and walls, and he'll create pathways for us to get to safe, healthy places where we can thrive. You know why? Because it gives him glory from our lives. So I hope that something that was said on this show gave you insight today, that you felt inspired and uplifted. If this is something that you've been praying about, I hope that God lets you know that He sees you and He understands what you're going through. And even if you can't talk to anybody else, you're not by yourself, you're not alone. He is with you in this place that may not feel safe, and He's going to help you get to a place where you can fulfill your destiny, your divine purpose. So you can be that business partner, so you can be that mother or that father, so you can be that friend or that daughter, whoever God is calling you to be. He's going to help you get to a place where you can become and evolve. So thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of The Dialogue. Always a pleasure to give you some insight from God. I pray that it touched your spirit. Please share this with someone that you may believe may need the content. And we will be back with more insight at a later day. Thanks, guys. Bye.